Hello everyone, welcome to Geelong Library. My name's Elizabeth McCarthy. I'm the Program Director of the Queenscliff Literary Festival, which is on the Bellarine every October, and it's my absolute delight to be here tonight for this event, which is a partnership event between the Wheeler Centre and Geelong Regional Libraries. I acknowledge that we're on the Aboriginal lands of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation and the Gulajan and Gadabanud peoples of the Maar Nations. And they are the original owners of these lands on which these library services operate. And I pay respects to elders past and present and acknowledge and celebrate First Nations peoples of this land as the custodians of learning, literacy, knowledge and story. And tonight's event will be recorded, so if you'd like to watch the discussion again or tell your friends about it, it will be on YouTube in coming days. If you have any concerns about the recording, please let the staff know after the event. We have the booksellers from Book Grove in Ocean Grove here over in the corner. They'll be selling books and you can get Kathy to sign your book after you purchase it. So I'll stop ignoring Kathy now. So let me tell you a bit about Kathy. She is an internationally successful author who first achieved scandalous success as a teenager with the novel Puberty Blues, which was made into a major film and TV miniseries. She's written 22 books, which have been translated into 19 languages, and she was recently honoured with a G100 Exceptional Women of Excellence Award for her outstanding work as an author and advocate of women's rights. Now, 4 of Kathy's novels are currently in film and TV production. She's a TV presenter, newspaper and magazine columnist, and also ambassador for Their World, the National Autistic Society, and ambitious about autism. Kathy toured internationally with her one-woman show Girls' Night Out and is pleased to report that she didn't fall out with the cast. And Kathy has 2 children and divides her time between Sydney and London. She is an autodidact, a word that she taught herself, and she has 3 honorary doctorates. And she was also the 1979 winner of the Best Legs in Bondi.
It's all I've got left.
So we're here to talk about your latest novel primarily, Kathy. This is the big book. This is the new one, The Sisterhood Rules. So in this novel, which I'm presuming that a lot of people haven't read, estranged twin sisters, Isabel and Verity, are forced back together by the disappearance of their mother. 5 years earlier, Verity committed the ultimate sisterly sin by stealing Isabel's husband. So
It does happen. You know, it really did happen to Helen Garner. Do you remember? Yeah. Men are so lazy, they'll use anything that's lying around the home.
So in the book, it starts off with a list of 15 sisterhood rules. I want to hear your top 3.
Well, the top 3 are probably, you know, I always say that women are each other's human wonder bras, uplifting, supportive, and making each other look bigger and better. But I also think we are like, you know, those big comfortable pants you get, the cotton pants. We're like those big comfortable pants. We've got each other's asses covered. So there's that. I think it's love, loyalty, sisterly camaraderie. The loyalty part, we should stick to each other like a nylon dress in a heat wave. You should always take your friend's side in a breakup. You know, you've got to have a few lines up your trouser leg, like, you know, say to her, oh, he was as useful as a solar-powered vibrator on a rainy day. Or, how do you get rid of cockroaches? Tell them you want a long-term relationship, whatever. I think you should encourage women to think big, especially in the workplace. Like, they've got to tell men they no longer want their seats on the bus, they want their seats on the board. And yeah, and just be supportive. Be the wind beneath each other's bingo wings at all times. And the main rule too is to never let a penis come between us. right? I think husbands come and go, but girlfriends last forever. So there's just some of the rules. I mean, there's probably a lot more. You can share yours with me maybe at the end. I'd love to hear that.
So this novel explores, as we've kind of touched on already, sibling, indeed, sister and twin sister rivalry at its most ghastly. So why did you decide to explore this particular theme here and now?
Okay, well, in all 21 of my novels, I've always championed women because it's still a man's world. You know, we still don't have equal pay, we're still getting concussion, hitting our head on the glass ceiling, and we're supposed to clean it while we're up there. We face a second glass ceiling at home because I think women do, what do you reckon, girls? 99.9% of all the housework and all the childcare. So there's a second glass ceiling at home. Then there's also a pleasure gap. Apparently, heterosexual women have 1 orgasm for every 5 enjoyed by a heterosexual male. Did you know this? The only women having pleasure parity are lesbians. Well, of course, it's only a slip of the tongue. But, so, it's still a man's world, and I adore men, especially the men here today, because obviously they're gorgeous, love gods for coming to an event where we're having girl talk. And I always say to men, you will be ovulating in about half an hour, but, we adore you. Thank you for coming. We need your support. So, yes, in all my books, I've always championed women, but we have to admit that, there are some women in this world who need to go to the vets to get their claws done. And you just look at what's happening in Trump's America with Pam Bondi and what's her name, Carolyn Levitt. And you think they have no sisterliness about them. So, and I think there's so much disunity in the world too. I wanted to write a book about 2 sisters who have fallen out and try and find a way for them to be reconciled, because we need the sisterhood more than ever. I mean, just to be serious for a second, women's rights are slipping back right across the world. I was talking about this on breakfast television this morning she's really lovely, Bridget, on ABC Breakfast. But, a woman born in America today has less rights than her grandma. So there's the abortion ban in America. In Afghanistan, women are being erased. In Iran, never has a haircut been so political. In our own world, we've got date rape and grooming and upskirting and, trolling and revenge porn and incel and Andrew Tate. And the conviction rate for rape is really low, whereas sexual assault statistics are so high. So, we need the sisterhood. We need to get organised. We need to be powerful. But it's not all doom and gloom, because we know from the Me Too movement that when we act together, we can bring about a great change. And that started with 1 tweet and became a global movement. So, we can make a difference if we stick together, and especially if the boys join us at the barricades. So, but I have 3 sensational sisters. We're very, very close. I adore them. But I also have a lot of female friends who've fallen out with their sisters or their best friend. I mean, has anyone fallen out with a best friend? It's the best girlfriend. It's so traumatic. It's almost like a divorce. So I think, it's up to all of us to try and find harmony and unity again. So I wanted to explore that in a book, in a funny way. I mean, it's funny. I hope you laughed.
Well, I totally laughed, but also I recognise that psychologists sort of talk about coming back from a really brutal betrayal as repair behaviour. So you explore a bit of that in the book, don't you? Like how to come back from betrayal with particular acts that one sister does to the other, so that they can just be sisters again. It probably will never be the same again, however. It's very hard to come back from, isn't it?
Well, you'll have to wait and see the sort of revenge they have on the man in question. Yeah, I think they find a way to heal. I love revenge. I mean, a lot of authors say, people say, why do you write? And they go, the muse descends from the heavens. No, I'm like, no, just impale an enemy on the end of your pen. A human shish kebab. And I think the reason women are drawn to revenge, it's sweet but totally non-fattening, which is great. So yeah, I think you can find a way back. I really do.
One of the tensions in the book that isn't just sisterly, it's actually between the matriarch of the family and the daughters, and the fact that, and you've written a bit about this across your career, Kathy, is an older woman having like a second and a third act in her life, and in this book, the daughters are suspicious of their mother having a second or a third act, and also. And they sort of feel betrayed, like she's sort of not only theirs anymore when she meets this particular man.
Well, first of all, I mean, how many women here have raised daughters? I'd say over half, right? I mean, I always say that living with teenage daughters, let's start with that. Living with a teenage daughter is like living with the Taliban. You're not allowed to laugh, sing, dance, wear short skirts. And when my daughter was a teenager, I'd go out wearing a short leopard skin miniskirt or something, and I knew she wouldn't approve, so I'd go down to the front door, I'd creep down, and I'd open the door. And if she heard me, she'd come running behind me and go, "What are you wearing? Go back to your room, you're not going out dressed like that." And I remember saying to her once, "Surely my legs are okay, I can still wear a short skirt." And she said, "It's not the legs, Mum, the skirt doesn't go with your face." Ouch. I know. Low self-esteem is hereditary. You get it from your teenage daughters. They kind of get taken hostage by their hormones from about 13 to 19, but they come out of that. My daughter's fabulous. She's 32 and we're best chums and stuff. But it is awful, that teenage time. But I have got a really good survival tip for anyone who's raising a teenage daughter. Next time she hits you and kicks you and says, "I wish you'd just die," you take a big drag on a cigarette and a big gulp of wine and say, "I'm doing my best, darling." But I think that judgmental thing from daughters never really ceases. So in the book, when the sisters, their mother goes missing and they've got to come back together to try and find her. When they go to the house, they find all this information on pancreatic cancer, and they think she's gone to Switzerland, and they think, "Oh my God, she's gone to the Dignitas clinic." And they rush to the Dignitas clinic in Switzerland, and they hear these drums, and they think there's a kind of end-of-life ritual going on down in the woods, and they go racing down, and there's their mother dancing naked around a fire pit with a 39-year-old alpine horn player, and they're like, and they're sort of horrified by this, and she's having a sexual epiphany and having a fabulous time, and they're judging her for it all the time. So the sisters have to come back together to try and prove that this guy's a con man. But Izzy, you'll have to wait and see. And I loved writing this character because, as I always say, life for women is in 2 acts, and the trick is surviving the interval, which is the menopause, where, you sweat more than King Charles reading the Epstein files. And after that, I do believe it's the greatest time of a woman's life. I mean, I'm sure some of you agree with me, because women are brought up to be decorative and demure. Like, all the research shows that when a man and woman start talking at the same time, the woman always pulls back. We're far too nice. We're far too polite. But when you turn 50, something fabulous happens. You get a kind of, do you mind if I just swear once? You get a kind of, "Oh, fuck it, I'm 50 gene," kicks in. And for the first time ever, women no longer care what people think about us. I mean, do you find that? It's totally liberating. So, the best thing about being post-menopause is you've got, no period cramps, no pregnancy scares. You've got all that tampon money to spend. And I also think you come into your sexual prime, because what makes good sex? Being totally relaxed in your body and relaxed in your skin. At this age, women, you know what you want and you're not afraid to ask for it. So I say to women, you don't give up sex when you get old. You get old if you give up sex. So, stay horizontal as often as possible. So I wanted to write about that, and I love writing about women this age because we've got so much to say. We've done so much. We've raised the kids, and we've had the divorces and the affairs and the marriages and the promotions at work. We've been backstabbed. We've lost friends, made friends. We've had so much experience. It's so rich. I love talking to women this age, my own age, because they're endlessly funny and fabulous stories. So that's what I want to explore in my books now, is to celebrate us But there's a big backlash to it too, because when I was writing The Revenge Club, the book before this, I went to see my publisher in London and my agent, and I said, I want to write about 4 middle-aged women taking revenge on the men who've sidelined them at work or betrayed them professionally, whatever. And my publisher said to me, oh no, you can't write about middle-aged women, they're just not sexy. And then worse, I went to another publisher and he said, yeah, middle-aged women, they're like Sudan or Mogadishu. We know they exist, but nobody wants to go there. Right? And just for a minute, I did kind of think, well, maybe I have passed my amuse-by date, just for a minute. And then I thought, nah. I mean, I'm Aussie. Aussie girls, women don't give up that easily. So I just got a new publisher, a new agent, and of course... Yeah, and the book went to number 1, hello. So it was the best revenge ever. But that prejudice is there. So this is a long answer to that question. But the sexism is sewn into our psyche. It's sewn into our vernacular. A man my age is a silver fox, whereas I'm written off as an old hag, a bag, a chook. And I always say to the blokes, you never get dismissed as mutton dressed as ram, ever. But we're told what we can wear, what we can't wear, no short skirts, you can't show your upper arms, no décolletage. Who are these fashion police dictating to us? So I think we have to kick back against that patriarchy.
Were they British agents and publishers who said that? Because I wonder if that's a global publishing response or just a British one.
Well, look what just happened to Rachel Ward. Did you see when she was photographed daring to have grey hair and no makeup on? The pile on her started in Australia and then it spread around other countries. And she's 67 or 68, and she hasn't had any tweakments. She looks amazing. And, look at men her age, like Timothy Spall. Do you know that actor, Timothy Spall? I mean, that man needs to get his mirrors insured. But nobody ever tells him, oh, you've let yourself go or whatever. So, yeah, it's a global problem. I think women suffer from facial prejudice. I think we get judged on our looks in a way that men don't. And we can talk about that if you want to.
No, I just thought that the fact that people who are buying books are mostly women. People who go to writers' festivals are mostly women and mostly over like 45. I think that's pretty much recognised as, a phenomenon. So the fact that you got pushback for wanting to write about middle-aged women is really peculiar to me.
Oh, well, I've got a new genre for us too, because I think I accidentally invented, I hate the term chick lit. It sounds like we always get a pink cover with a cupcake on it, whereas, men who write contemporary first-person funny fiction get compared to Chekhov, like Nick Hornby and people, and we get sort of chick off. And I really resent that. But I think with Puberty Blues and those Girls' Night Out, those books I wrote in the 70s and 80s, were kind of started a whole genre. And then when I wrote Mad Cows and Figure Attraction, that started a new genre called Mummy Lit. Then I wrote about cosmetic surgery, Nip Lit. And I thought, we need a new genre for women our age. And I was talking about it with my sisters and we came up with a great name. I Don't Give a Shit Lit. Isn't that great? Wouldn't it be great if you won the Booker Prize? They'd be like, and tonight, from the genre, I Don't Give a Shit Lit, Kathy Lette. I'm going to name my cat Pulitzer just so I can say I've got one.
Another thing that this new novel celebrates is the music worlds. So when I say music worlds, it's plural because the matriarch is a conductor. She's in the classical music world.
She's Australian, obviously.
And one of the daughters has been in a rock band, and also her ex, who's now with Verity, he's still trying to live the dream or grasp it, sort of a faded dream that he had. So why did you want to tell this story set in these music worlds?
Well, first of all, I said I'm trying to find harmony in the world right now because we desperately need it. So I thought, well, why not set it in the music world? And also, when I talk about women having a sensational second act, well, I'm having one. My boyfriend is a classical guitarist. I'll tell you how we met. It's pathetic. We have because I write kind of caustic, sassy, little bit sarcastic, sardonic prose. But the way I met my boyfriend is like a what they call in the movies a meet cute. That I was jogging through Regent's Park in London and I heard this beautiful music, and there was this guy playing Bach in the park. I know. Under a tree, and I went over and said to him, "That's a beautiful rendition." And then he spoke, and he spoke in an Irish accent. And I was like, "Okay, take me now. What's not to love about you?" So we've been together like 7 years now, and if you listen to the audio book, I got him to play guitar all the way through it, and I made him do the Irish accents as well. But also, a lot of this book is set in Northern Ireland. There's a lot of Celts here. I can see from your colouring. There's a lot of Celts. And because he's from Derry, I said a lot of it in Northern Ireland because I thought if the Protestants and the Catholics can find a way back together, then, there's no excuse for the rest of us. Although I love... Have you been to Ireland? I mean, my mother's Protestant, my father's Catholic, so I can say this. The Irish dancing, to me, sums up, Catholic Protestant. So it's Protestant from the waist up, and then it's Catholic from the waist down. Makes me laugh so much. So, yes, I said it there. It was a great fun to write about that.
Well, yeah, that's another sort of part of the rom-com sort of thread going through it, which we won't sort of dwell on too much or give too much away. But one of the things I love about Cathy's literature, which I'm sure that a lot of you do as well, is the joy that you bring. So there's always lots of drama, there's always lots of misunderstandings, and there's always relationships that need repair. But there is also joy, and you have such joy for life. Where the hell does that come from, Cathy?
Oh, well, first of all, I think joy builds resilience, and that's what girls' nights out are for. When you go on a girls' night out, don't you have to be hospitalised from hilarity? We laugh so much, and I think there's a big difference between male and female humour. My male friends are very, very funny, but they have what I call the black belt and tongue fu, where they just they tell jokes, set jokes, which is fun, but they don't reveal anything about themselves. Women never tell each other set jokes, do we? Like, our humour's very, very self-deprecating, very candid, very cathartic. We strip off to our emotional undies in about 3.6 seconds. It's a psychological striptease that reveals all. It's very, very funny, very candid. So we're laughing like that, and then suddenly we're all hugging and crying. Like, you do the whole range. It's so therapeutic to go out and be together like that. So I find joy in my female friendships every day. Also, I've got these 3 sensational sisters. And women do laugh a lot. It's not just me imagining that women are funny. Anthropologists say in all cultures on the planet, women laugh more often than men, especially in all female groups. Well, you know what we're laughing about. I'm sorry, guys. It is you. So I just try and write down the way women talk when there's no men around,
You touched on the Epstein files earlier, and I know that you've been tweeting a bit about them as well. Cathy and I are one of the holdouts still on Australian Twitter anyway. I find them incredibly disturbing, these files. The email, I mean, it is an elite sort of global ring of very powerful people who, have had a lot of respect in many ways, and they are sort of involved...
I hope that's your toy boy calling. Tell him to come on over. Tell him at every girls' gathering we always have one man up on stage, strip him naked, cover him in whipped cream and lick it slowly off.
I think I'll just reduce this question to... Does it feel really hard to have humour about the misogyny that we're seeing unravelling right now?
Well, yes, but I do think humour is a very good to comically kneecap a misogynist is so effective. And I always say to young women when I give talks at schools, you're underdressed unless you go out at night with a couple of one-liners tucked up your trouser leg. Because if a man is putting you down in some way, if you can have a one-liner and make people laugh at him, you've completely nuked him. And we know the one thing Trump hates is to be laughed at. I mean, he hates it. I think that's why a lot of men say women aren't funny. which a lot of men still do say that, you know, and I think it's because they're terrified what it is we're being funny about. I think they presume we spend the entire time talking about the length of their penises, which is not true, guys, because we also talk about the width, which after childbirth is much, much more important. So I just think that's very effective weapon in our armoury, and also women use on average about 400 more words in our daily vocabulary. We can shoot from the lip, so I just blow raspberries at Trump and the others every single day, because you know every little niggle hurts. I hope so. Yeah, I think it's something we should lean into for sure.
So, and you are the queen of puns.
By the way, just one more thing. There's one person has gone to prison over the Epstein files, and it's a woman. I'm not saying she's not guilty, but where are the men who flew? Where are the men? Yeah.
So I just wanted to get onto your use of language, Kathy, because it's so sparkling. Now,
She's being my human wonder bra today. Uplifting and supportive.
Do you dream of puns? Do you keep a pun diary? I mean, these just reel from you.
I do dream of puns, actually. I love wordplay, and wordplay is foreplay for females. I mean, you know, isn't it? How many men have laughed you into bed? A lot, right? Yeah. So yeah, I just love wordplay. It's it amuses me.
Did you grow up in a family where puns were constantly sort of being pumped out at the breakfast
Well, just
table?
a very chatty four girls, and my dad, my lovely dad, is dead now, but he worked in optic fibre. His name's Merv, and we used to call him Optic Merv, and. And he was a famous footballer. He was a front row forward for the Bulldogs. So all he wanted was 4 sons, and he got these 4 mouthy broads. You know? So I think from him I learnt to. I don't like playing football, but I learnt to verbally scrum and tackle. I've got some of his genes in there somewhere.
My favourite part of the novel is when when one of the characters is particularly distraught, and the chapter opens with she's in this infinity pool, and Kathy's line is she's in this infinity pool and she's wondering where does it all end.
I have to keep myself amused as I'm writing.
That was one of my laugh out loud moments. Now, I wanted to also get some reflection from you, Kathy, about your career and the fact that you started with a really scandalous book. So Puberty Blues, how old were you when that came out?
Well, I got to tell you something funny. I went to see, when I started writing Pubes when I was about 17, I was writing it for my other surfy girlfriends, because the guys I grew up with, they kept fit by doing step aerobics off their own egos, the surfy guys. They were so egotistical. I mean, the guy I was going out with, Bruce, when he came, he called out his own name. You've all had one of those, obviously. Hello? And I always joke about those surfy boys, but it's true that they also thought sex drive meant doing it in the car. And then how many women here lost their virginity in a car? I know you're lying to me. Although I worked out why, you know, that little sign on the rear vision mirror that says, objects in this mirror may appear larger than they are. But I was going to tell you what my mum said. I went to tell it when I was 17. I wrote that book with my girlfriend to give the surfy girls some objectivity about what they were going through, because we were just like a life support system to a pair of breasts. So I wrote it for them with no idea I was going to go from non-entity to overnight notoriety. It was quite a roller coaster ride. But I went to see my mum and said, Mum, I'm writing this book. It's set in the panel vans at Cronulla. It's quite racy. It's got quite a bit of sex in it. Do you want me to use a nom de plume? And I had a really good nom de plume. I was going to call myself Sue Denim. I know. And I remember Mum saying, in that lovely way, she went, darling, you're 17. Don't worry, I don't think that book's ever going to be published. Something she came to regret.
I think it was the third novel ever published by McPhee Gribble. Is that correct? Yeah. And so first of all, what was the Australian publishing industry like at that time?
Yeah.
And how were you treated by, the world at large and the media at the time? Talk about the furor.
Well, the book was turned down by about 10 publishers, and then I read something Anne Summers had written about gang rape in Queensland or something. You know who Anne Summers is? Wonderful feminist. So I sent the manuscript to her, or that was, still a bit scrappy, and this is the sisterhood in being so effective. She then sent it to a feminist publishing house who were brave enough to publish it. But the sexism at the time, I'm 67, or 6'7", as I'd rather say. We are so on point. We're so fashionable. But for any of the younger women in the room, it was so sexist with the world we grew up in, wasn't it? I was just thinking the other day, I went for a job. So the book came out in my late teens, and then I had a newspaper column, and then when I was 21, I got asked into a TV station to see if I wanted to start presenting on television. And this was my job interview. 5 guys in suits sitting across from me. Men, if I told you their names, you would know them all. And they're sitting like that. And one of them slapped $10 on the table and said, "I bet I can make your tits move without touching them." And I just went, "Oh yeah, whatever." He leant over, mauled my breasts, and then said, "Ha ha, you won, there's the $10. So I immediately put $20 on the table and said, I bet I can make your balls move without touching them," and kicked him between the legs. But that was my job interview. Today you'd have a sexual harassment suit, but we didn't have any. There was no such thing as HR. So every day when you went to work, I'm sure some of you have similar stories. You just had to kind of strap on a bulletproof bra and go in there and hope for the best, So that's another way the world's got better. I know there's so much doom and gloom, but now that men, they can't get away with that kind of blatant behaviour. So that's another reason that's another effective thing the sisterhood has done. But yeah, it was a very, very different time. Yeah.
So what was the most ridiculous thing you read about yourself or the book when it came out at that particular era, that time?
Gosh, there have been so many things written about me that were ridiculous. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I can't think of one.
Well, what would you say to yourself if you could meet yourself as, a 17-year-old? What advice would you give Kathy Lette, who's a
Wear
17-year-old?
sunblock. Yeah. You could play join the dots with my sunblots and my freckles and would say, "Wear sunblock, you idiot." But, we just used to cover ourselves in baby oil and lie on the beach. I've talked many times about the tan tattoo, how the boyfriends used to get us to cut their names out in paper and sticky tape them on our stomachs and then sunbake so we get a tan tattoo in the shape of their names. So if ever I get cancer, I'll have a melanoma called Bruce. I'll have to have like a brucectomy to get rid of it. That's true. So, yes, wear sunblock. Also, I would say stand on your own 2 stilettos and don't wait to be rescued by a knight in shining Armani. And lean into the sisterhood, because the sisterhood is there for you. So, yeah, they're the 3 things.
You went to England. How old were you when you went to England? Was that sort of mid-20s?
Well, I fell in love with Geoffrey Robertson, human rights lawyer. And I don't know if I've told this before, but you know who he was going out with when I met him? Do you know who? Nigella. I know. He broke up with her for me and I can't cook. I used my smoke alarm as a timer. Something he came to regret as well. But anyway, yes, so I moved over there. And at the time, are there anyone from England here? Anyone? Couple of people? Well, when I moved to England, though, I landed right smack bang in the middle of the kind of literati and glitterati, and they were very snobby. A lot of them had been at Oxford for so long, they had ivy growing up the backs of their legs. And what they graduated in was advanced condescension, especially when it came to Australians, they'd hear my accent, the noses would go up. I looked up so many noses over there, even people shorter than me. And they'd be really condescending. In fact, I was at a literary soiree once, and this famous book critic was there, and he was talking to someone, and he said, "It's condescending." Then he turned to me and said, "Condescending, it means talking down to." Isn't that great? So ever since, but I always remembered that line Eleanor Roosevelt said once that no one can make you feel inferior unless you let them. So I just thought, I'm just not going to let you. So every time they said something bitchy to me, I'd say, oh, that's great, I'm going to write that down and give it to a real bastard in my next book, thanks. Or I'd tell them what my grandma told me when I said I was moving to England. She's like, oh, Kath, you can't possibly go and live in London. That's where all those terrible convicts come from. And they had no reply. So that was good, you know.
But were you accepted by sort of high society after a while because you were the Aussie who was a bestseller?
Well, they have to be nice to you just in case you're Rupert Murdoch's daughter. You know, they're not quite sure. And because in England, the English people here will know, people are pretty much classified on their accent. They'll know where you went to school, they know what your sexual proclivity is, what you have for breakfast. But Aussies, with our accents, it gives us great social mobility. You know, I can go from having a cup of tea in the housing estate with a single mums to arvo tea at Buck House with absolute ease, and my English friends can't do that. So that's rather good. But the story, I can tell you a story that shows how I finally got accepted. I mean, it's a bit daggy, but I'll tell you. I was, as a writer, you never turn down an adventure. You go into kind of Margaret Mead mode, I call it. So when one of my friends rang me up and said they were going to the Royal Polo, they said, would I like to come? And I thought, well, I've never been to the polo. That'll be material. So I was like, sure. Then Clarence House saw my name on the list and they rang me up and said, as you're coming to the polo, would you like to present the cups to the princes? And I was like, okay, you know. And I get there and the guy who was organising it was one of those guys who sends his shirts out to be stuffed. And he was so horrified they'd asked an Australian and an Australian woman to present the cups to the princes. So as the princes were standing there, and as though, this is when I knew I'd finally been accepted, this weird day, as the princes were walking towards me for the presentation, I said to him, well, what do I do? And he said, you just kiss them on the cheek and present the cup. So as Prince William came up to me, I thought I might as well have some fun. I said, apparently I have to kiss you. Do you want tongue? And Prince William went, oh, perhaps later. And then he went back and told Harry, and this is the days Harry was fun, and I could see him killing himself laughing. So when he came up, I said, do you want tongue? And he goes, oh, yeah! And, you know, we had a pash, and I jumped on his back and rode him around the paddock. It was so good. And the English were kind of horrified. But as you know, everyone treats them like porcelain princes, and they were so relieved to have a bit of fun. You know, they didn't put me in the tower, and actually, I must say, I felt a bit of a frisson with old Harry at the time, and I thought, oh, if I play my cards right, I could marry into the royal family. Imagine it, girls, being on a postage stamp and getting licked all day. That's what I call job satisfaction right there. But anyway, so yes, I think finally, begrudgingly, they've accepted me just because I don't care if they do or they don't, you know. And I'm a Republican. I think Australia should be a republic. But I do like King Charles. I've liked him ever since he wanted to be a tampon. Do you remember that? Although I did think it summed up his entire life. Always in the right place at the wrong time. Although he's in the right place now, I suppose.
So you split your days, or your time now, between Sydney and London. Mm-hmm. And so where is it easier for you to write, to have solid writing time?
Well, as mothers, you know, we juggle so much. We could be in the Cirque du Soleil. I can write anywhere. I can write in a doctor's waiting room. I can write in a bus stop. I can write at Tiny Tots, Tumblers. I can write anywhere. And funnily enough, my friends, I have some writer friends who don't have children, some women, and they have writer's block all the time. I don't have time for writer's block. Because also I've got an autistic son, as you probably gathered, and that's like having a giant toddler. He takes a lot of my emotional energy and time. So, you know, I just got very good at juggling and writing anywhere. So, yeah. And I only write because it's cheaper than therapy. So, and I need a lot of therapy. That's why I'm still writing, yeah.
Do you prefer to write novels, or do you prefer the newspaper columns, or what's your favourite type of forum to write in?
Well, I love the columns because I write a column in the Age, the Sunday. What's it called down here? Up there, it's Sunday Life, and I love that because I meet so many wonderful readers of the column all the time, and you get immediate feedback. Where a novel takes you over a year, takes another while to come out, so it's not as instantaneous. And obviously, I'm just a mouthy broad and have a lot to say, and I like to champion women whenever I can. You know, I like every single outlet. And, you know, as we were talking earlier about it being a man's world, I think, you know, women, we do have a lot to whinge about, but one of my mottos is, you know, laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you get salt in your champers, which we don't want. So, we do laugh, but we have got a lot we could be whinging about, starting with being the butt of God's biological joke. You know, you think of all the things we go through. When you're a teenager and you first get taken hostage by your hormones once a month, then there's pregnancy where everything swells to sumo wrestler proportions, then there's childbirth where you stretch your vagina the customary, 5-6 kilometres, then there's mastitis, then there's the menopause, and then just when everything goes quiet, you grow a beard. I mean, how can that be fair? Has anyone else got a macrame hanging basket arrangement? At least we can finally take up a hobby, you know. So, you know, we've got a lot to whinge about, but we always find the funny. And in my books, I always try and find the funny. And I think because my mum's a teacher, it was a real vocation for her. She's a brilliant teacher, infants and primary headmistress. I think, and I would have been a teacher if I hadn't become a writer. And I think I've got this gene in me where I like to always educate. So I always write the book I wish I'd had when I was going through something, like a how-to manual, like this is how it was for me, this is how I survived, this is how I found the funny, this might help you. So, and that's what I'm wanting to do now for women my age, is just say that we can put ourselves first for the first time in our lives. We don't have to have a guilt gland throbbing. We've cut the psychological umbilical cord that kept us tethered to the kitchen by our heart and our apron strings. And, you know, let's have adventure before dementia. And I'm not making light of that disease, but you never know what's round the corner. So if not now, when? Let's carpe the hell out of diem. So let's carpe diem like there's no tomorrow, you know. And that's what I want to say to women now, is just have a sensational second act, go forth and be fabulous, and have as much fun as you possibly can, and preferably horizontally.
We'll go to audience questions in one moment. I did want to ask, though, because you've been so outspoken across so many years, do you get a lot of men writing to you with feedback and their thoughts about you?
Well, no, women tell me, well, of course I have the Twitter trolls. Over the days when a troll just lived in a fairy tale under a bridge. But any woman who puts her head above the parapet, you're going to get the Andrew Tates of this world going for you. But I picture them. I never feed the trolls. I picture them. They're living in their mother's basements. You know, they're wearing tracksuits they haven't changed in about 4 months. You know, their keyboards are covered in cheesels and jism. I mean, would you talk to them in real life? No. So I don't let them faze me. But my favourite thing is when women readers will say to me that they were reading a bit out to their husband. They'll be in bed reading and they'll laugh and their husband will say, "What are you reading a book by that loudmouth feminist rat bag for," or whatever. And then they'll go, "Read me out a bit." And they'll read a bit and you go, go, "Read me another bit." And then eventually he disappears into the toilet with the novel. You know how some men think sitting on the toilet is a leisure activity? I'm like, what are they doing in there? And that to me is the greatest compliment. So I do try and disarm with charm. I think if you have a message, and I have a strong feminist message, if you can put it in a way that's funny and accessible, you've got a much better chance of getting your message across than sort of beating someone over the head with it. And I do want men to join us at the barricades, because we feminists have been saying the same thing. Well, I've been saying the same thing for 50 years. I was just thinking, I've been writing novels for 50 years. I started at 17 and now I'm 6, 7. But it's not going to change until men come and help us. So, and I always say to men, if men do, sometimes attack me for saying, "Oh, you feminists are asking for too much." Like, what do we want? Equal pay? That'd be great. We'd like men to work out that, the Kama Sutra is not an Indian takeaway. That'd be nice. and that mutual orgasm is not an insurance company. Great, fabulous. We'd like them to help more around the house, which is actually in their interest, as it's scientifically proven that no woman ever shot her husband while he was vacuuming. And we'd like them to do the odd sensitive thing with snow peas in the kitchen, because the way to a woman's heart is through her stomach. That is not aiming too high. Wouldn't you agree, girls? Yes. What does a woman really want in bed? Breakfast, and a really good book, which we just happen to have on sale today. How was that for a segue?
Okay, so we have some roving mics, and if you'd like to raise your hand, if you have a question for Kathy, Kathy's very open, you can ask her most things.
Loving the top. We've got a sequined ensemble in the front here.
I have only one question, Kathy. Why have you not got an Order of Australia?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, what a lovely thing to say. I'd be so proud to have that. Oh, you're just lovely. See, this is the sisterhood. Boys, you see what you're missing out on? This is how women support each other. It's so lovely. Thank you. I would love that. I'm very proud of Australia. I think we're a brilliant country. And I also think Australian women are the world's best kept secret. Funny, fiercely loyal, fabulous. What a sisterhood. And for example, two women who slept with the same man in Australia, there's a term for us, stick sisters. There's a sense of camaraderie rather than rivalry. It's like, you slept with him too, wasn't he terrible? Ah! So, I mean, I've never found a similar expression in the other countries I've lived in the world. I think that epitomises us. So, yeah, I do love it here. I love everything. I love our sense of humour, and the blokes too. We don't have an irony deficiency. We're sceptical, but we're not cynical. I think we have chronic skepticemia. We don't think optimism is an eye disease. We're very upbeat. All those things make for a joyous and wonderful place to live. And I'm really, really proud of everything about my Australian roots, yeah. Except the roots I had at the Shire, but...
Do we have... It's back there. We have someone asking a question.
Thank you. Kathy, I wonder whether your jauntiness ever gives way to sullenness, and or whether you're ever lost for words and how you manage in those circumstances.
Well, I was lost for words when you asked me that question earlier, which was rare for me, from the mouth from the south. I couldn't think of anything. I'll think of something late tonight and call you. But... my son makes me lost for words sometimes, because is anyone here raising a child on the spectrum or a grandchild? There probably is a few in the room. Well, autistic people have a literal, lateral, tangential logic, which is truly original and fabulous, but it also can be very alarming because they have no filter. They say whatever they're thinking. So he leaves me lost for words. For example, when he was about 12 or 13, I took him to Downing Street to a charity event, and I introduced him to the then Prime Minister, Tony Blair. And I said, "Oh, Jules, this is the Prime Minister, Tony Blair." And Jules said, "Oh, yes, you're the one my mother calls Tony blah, blah, blah." And I just was going... I could not think of anything to say. So he catches me out like that a lot. So, and I've written 2 books about raising a child on the spectrum. 2 funny books, but with a lot of heart. And I did try and find the funny, because I think the only way you can survive raising someone who's so quirky is with humour allows you to strap a giant shock absorber to your brain. If you can laugh at something, it takes the sting out of it. So if anyone does need, get from this library, The Boy Who Fell to Earth and Best Laid Plans, because I wrote them for you. But yeah, he leaves me lots of words on a daily basis. Oh, you're wearing the great ensemble. It's beautiful. I clocked you earlier. Everybody does look very lovely. Look at you.
Thank you. I want to ask what happened to Bruce.
What happened to Bruce?
Has he turned up at something and said, "No way, Kathy, that didn't happen"?
Oh, well, I did see Bruce recently, and let me just say, he's got a veranda over his toy shop. Yeah. don't you notice? I mean, women, we do make an effort. We go to Pilates, we go to yoga, we go walking. You know, we have like 1 lettuce frond a day. And the men, I mean, and we're still critical of ourselves all the time. Most men I know look in the mirror with their big beer bellies and go, "Oh, looking great, hot," you know. So yeah, and we didn't talk about it, but I think we should talk a little bit about this facial prejudice we were talking about earlier, about the pressure on women to look good or keep looking good. And I resist all that cosmetic surgery stuff. I mean, I always joke that my mother told me never to pick my nose, especially from a catalogue, ha. But I also think the dimmer switch, greatest beauty aid known to womankind. I just keep the lights really low. But I am at that age where a lot of my women friends are being traded in for younger blokes, and yeah. Sorry. That went wrong. A lot of my women, well, in Sydney, that's true. It's very hard to find a man in Sydney who isn't married or gay, or married and gay. But no, a lot of my women friends are being traded in for younger women, and they're usually in their 60s, whatever, and the sort of panic sets in, and they do anything they can to look younger, no matter the pain. And I really breaks my heart to see them. Like, you know, I won't see them for a few weeks, and I'll suddenly see these breasts coming down the high street. They've got their own postcode, and then, you know, you see them and they've done that thing to their lips where it looks as though she's sutured a vagina to her face. And basically all they do for that, they take the fat out of their bottoms and inject it into their lips, so they're literally talking out of their ass. And then the thing I really hate, I see them at the gym and they've waxed all their body hair off. I mean, why? Trying to look like prepubescent girls. You know, and I always think, I always say I like my pubic hair. It's like having a little pet in my pants, you know. My own pudenda could be awarded national park status. And I always ask some of the men in the audience, actually, shall we? Tell me, sir, do you like a little light bushwalking? Oh, he does over there. I think the man in the back there likes a little bit of bush tucker. So yeah, I think we have to try to resist all that cosmetic surgery, because you're just not seeing women who look real anymore. You know, and half the problem is that 85% of people on Australian television over 50 are men. The women just get put out to career pasture for like one wrinkle. So, you know, we pay, especially on the ABC, we pay half that. We're paying, that's our taxpayers' money. We should demand to see women our own age looking real. So there's another campaign for us girls, yeah, in our spare time.
Hi. You spoke earlier about the Australian sense of humour, Kathy. I was just curious about how you describe the British sense of humour.
Well, I find my British friends so witty. It's a different, our humour's kind of more laconic, it's very dry. It's kind of dry than an AA clinic. But my British friends are so quick-witted. And so if you go to a dinner party, you know, with Stephen Fry and co, it's like the Wimbledon of wit. You know, they lob banter back and forth, you know, quoting and quipping and whatever. And it's really, really brilliant. I love that too. It's quite dazzling, their facility for words and whatever. And I have a lot of comedian friends in Britain, and I love everything about them. And there's a lot of great things I love about being there half the year. I mean, here we conquer the great outdoors, but there you conquer the great indoors. The galleries, museums, the theatre are all wonderful. So as long as you can not be affected by the class system, because in England even their letters travel first and second class, and I'm always like, do their first class letters get a little in-flight movie and a paper parasoled cocktail on the way? And the upper class are particularly weird. I mean, they like their dogs more than their kids. They keep their dogs at home and send their kids off to high-class kennels called Eton and Harrow, you know, and I just find that so weird. But it's all good comic material. But yes, the wit is wonderful. Yeah, I'm sure all those TV shows we love, the British sitcoms and whatever, genius, Fawlty Towers. And I'm friends with all the Monty Pythons and all those people. So I'm so lucky I get to sort of bask in that that glorious wit on a regular basis. Yeah, Eric Idle was just staying with me in London. Actually, I'm going for gold in the name dropping now. Name dropping Olympics, and he's just so deliciously funny. He's writing because he's just survived pancreatic cancer, which is so rare. So he's now writing something called Death the Musical. And he's just sold his house in LA to a smaller house, and he's calling his new house Downsize Abbey. But I must say, the wittiest person I've ever met, but I got to know really well in Britain, was Barry Humphries. What a genius. And he was my friend since I was a teenager, actually, but when I moved to London, I ended up living in the street next to him, and his house backed directly onto mine. And every time he came home from overseas, he'd send me a note saying, because his house was literally behind mine, he'd send me a note saying, "Kathy dear, I'm poised at your rear entrance," or something like that. I mean, what a genius. And Melbourne born, a Melbourne boy. So, yeah, I've been so lucky to meet all these incredible people, yeah.
Just one more question. We have someone popping their hand up just down here. Yeah, just down here. Thank you. The last question. Thanks.
Thank you. So, Kathy, you can give me something that I can boast about, because I too turned 67 a couple of months ago and was telling the family that I was 6'7". Great. So I thought, oh, that's great, me and Kath. But I also want to say that Darg Gribble was an aunt of mine, so you was my aunt.
Who?
Diana Gribble from McPhee Gribble. So yes, you've been part of our lexicon for a long time. But you were saying that they were the 11th publishers that you went to, and it was early feminist publishers. If they'd knocked you back, would you have kept going, or would that have been where you stopped? So I suppose I want to know is, was it a great matter of luck that we now have you in our life, which is great, or did you have that sense of determination back then that would have kept you going?
Well, I'm from the Shire. we don't give up. I would have probably self-published it in some form or other, but McPhee Gribble was a lifesaver. So yeah, how wonderful you've got! It's a case of designer jeans. Look at you, you're fabulous. But so we're 6'7", but I'm not going to have a 70th. I'm going to have a 69th, where everyone has to come as their favourite page from the Kama Sutra. Missionary, dog, whatever. You're all invited. Yeah.
On that note, we might wrap it up. Please put your hands together for the fabulous Kathy Lette.
Thanks to Elizabeth. Thanks to Elizabeth, who's my good friend.
And so, as I mentioned, Kathy will be signing books over in that corner. The good people of Book Grove are here, and you can get your book signed by Kathy and meet her.
Thank you so much for coming. It's just such a joy for me to meet you all, and it's just I'm so flattered that you spent this time with me tonight, especially the boys. How are you going? Yay! Oh, the bush tucker man's looking good. Yeah. I think he's worked up quite an appetite, actually. It's lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for coming.